I am so excited to spend an hour talking about theater. What could be better? So I will share my screen so we can start with the presentation. All right. I'm gonna move y'all out of the way. Here we go. Sorry. Okay. We're gonna start first with just make sure we're all on the same page, using the same definitions, and that's going to be setting the scene. Ooh. So, if you're wondering what's the difference between Broadway, off-off Broadway, how to impress your friends and family the next time you're in New York and want to show off about your theater knowledge, um, Broadway is not just theaters in the theater district. It's very specific. It is 41 designated theaters. They have to be certified by the Broadway League, which is the National Trade Association. And most importantly, they have to be at least 500 seats. And they're not that big, even though they have to be 500 seats. The largest one, which is where Wicked plays, is only just over 2,000. So if you're used to going to see national tours that come through your town, those are going to be much larger houses than what you will see on Broadway. And they are, for the most part, commercial enterprises. There are a few exceptions, but these are going to have to be shows that appeal to a mainstream audience because the goal is inevitably to make back your money. Of course, they are congregated in the theater district, but as you can see here on the map, they go all the way from 66th Street, which isn't even on the map, down to 40, between 40th and 41st Street. Pretty central area. Off Broadway, however, completely different situation. They have to have between 100 and 499 seats. There isn't an official count. Most of them are downtown, but there are some in the theater district, some even a couple doors down from Broadway theaters. So you have to know where you're going. And these are usually more experimental. They include very famous nonprofit theaters. Shakespeare in the Park is a nonprofit off Broadway, part of the public theater. This is going to include Second Stage Theater, Playwrights Horizons, New York Theater Workshop, which gave us Rent and Hamilton, and no, not Hamilton, Rent and Hadestown. The Public Theater gave us Hamilton and a chorus line. So some of the biggest and most influential shows of the last 50 years have come from off-Broadway theaters. And then we have the miscellaneous category. We have off Broadway shows. These are shows in theaters that are up to 99 seats, and these can be anywhere. We also have theaters like New York City Center, which is technically off Broadway, but they have many shows that are just for a weekend, a week, 2 weeks, and we're going to be talking about some of those today. Specifically, they have a series called Encores, which gives new life to shows that maybe deserved more attention and need a revival. And they usually have very famous casts in very short runs. So if you're ever in New York during an Encores show, I would always recommend it. All right, so let's start with Broadway. This fall on Broadway, there are at least 12 shows starting performances. I say at least because you never know. They've said the Dreamgirls is coming. They don't have a theater. We'll see. Um, the fall season is usually a little bit sparse. Tony season is between March and May 1st. So only a third to a half of the shows open in the fall. So we're lucky this year that we have a full season in the fall, and we have not just one, but two musicals that are original musicals, new scores. They're not based on intellectual property from a famous movie, a famous TV show. They are brand new. I also want to point out Broadway Week. This year is between September 8th and September 20th. It is a great way to get discount tickets if you're in the area. Many shows participate, and they're 2-for-1 Broadway tickets. There's also an off Broadway week, but they have not announced their dates. So for this presentation, I am focusing on shows, as it says here, that are starting performances between September 1st and the end of the year. If you have questions about shows that are already running, put them in the chat. Happy to answer them when we get to the Q&A. And on the right side, you will see a list of all the Broadway shows starting performances. We definitely don't have time to talk about all of them, so I'll be focusing on the very lightly highlighted ones, which were not that lightly highlighted on my computer. So we're going to start with Schoolgirls, or the African Mean Girls play. This is a transfer 10 years later. It was off Broadway in 2017. Huge hit. No one heard anything about it again. And then it's finally making its Broadway debut. This show is about it, as it says here, it's about a high school in Ghana, and it's about colorism. It is about an American student who comes to Ghana, and the queen bee, most popular girl in school, has to deal with the fact that that's not going to be her role anymore. But what it has to say about colorism, I think, is really interesting and important. It is a cast full of Black women, directed by a Black woman, written by a Black woman, and that is not what we see on Broadway historically, and that is still not what we see on Broadway. So it's very important to support work like that. You will see here 3 of the stars: Danae Benton, who you might know from The Gilded Age; Patina Miller, who you might know from Madam Secretary or the revival of Pippin. If you were lucky enough to see that, it was amazing. And Jasmine Amy Rogers, who played Betty Boop recently in the Boop musical. And I just put here for each of the shows what might interest you in this show. If you've seen any of these others and you liked those, this could be the show for you. So we will move on to the next one. Other Desert Cities. This is a play. It is the first revival on Broadway of this play. It was written by John Robin Bates, and it is about a family that is breaking apart. Brooke Wyeth, she's coming home after many years away from her family, and she has written a memoir that's going to expose a big family secret and potentially have lasting repercussions for the family. The tagline is, "Every family has a secret. Not every family survives it." But this one is interesting because it's Julia Louis-Dreyfus's Broadway debut. The cast is incredible, as you can see: Ed Harris, Allison Janney, and it's gonna be a great family drama. So if you are a person who watched Succession and loved it, this is definitely the show for you. If you liked Brothers and Sisters, which was on TV, it's been about 20 years. This is written by the person who created Brothers and Sisters. So definitely the show for you. I would hop on tickets if you're going to be in town, because this will be a hard ticket to get. And I will be trying to go see this one. It's not going to be a hilarious comedy. This will be a departure from Julia Louis-Dreyfus's normal work, but it's going to be amazing. Okay, now we're on to musicals. This is one of the ones I'm more excited about. This musical is called Wanted. It is about 2 sisters in Texas in 1893, and they pass for white to secure their mother's legacy and save her home. This is the Broadway premiere. It has had some off-Broadway runs under a different name, but now it is Wanted, and it is a brand new musical, never seen on Broadway, and we're going to listen to a little bit from it. If you are a person who loves Hadestown, if you liked the musical version of The Color Purple, or if you saw the TV show Godless, which was a Western which was run by women, this is the show for you. It has these three amazing leads who I would call theater famous. They're all incredibly talented singers, and you are going to hear them right now. Ridiculous. So if you are a fan of gospel, it does have also a little bit of a twang in some of the songs because it is set in Texas. Highly recommend. Hopefully that one will be a big hit. Okay. Also coming this fall, Much Ado About Nothing. If you have not brushed up your Shakespeare recently, quick recap. This is about two couples, Claudio and Hero, who fall in love and have to overcome the evil Don John's plot to break them up, and Beatrice and Benedict, who have hated each other for many years and have to come to terms with the fact that maybe they don't. So that's the plot of this. But what's important about this one is that it's directed by Jamie Lloyd, who has sort of been the up and coming director for the last few years, both on Broadway and in London. He is known for minimalist, bare sets, no props at all. We're not changing costumes. There's no spectacle here. He often uses cameras in the shows. Very recently, he did the revival of Sunset Boulevard. If you saw any press about that, it was famous for following a character into Times Square in real time and then back into the theater, which was very cool and made no sense because famously Sunset Boulevard set in Los Angeles. Now, this is a West End transfer starring Tom Hiddleston and Haley Atwell. So if you like Shakespeare, but also if you like a more minimalist, you don't need the spectacle, this could be the show for you. I have just well, we don't probably need to watch that one. We have a trailer from the West End, so you can see the kind of vibe of the production. I'm more interested in this one than his past work because this one does appear to be more joyful and a little more appealing to mainstream audiences than some of his previous shows. So that one is a very limited run. And if you are in town, definitely recommend seeing that one. That is not something that is going to go on tour. You would have to see that in New York. Okay, next one I'm very excited about. This one is Galileo, a rock musical. This is the other completely original musical coming to New York this fall. It is, as it suggests, about Galileo. This one is exciting for CSP audiences because the music and lyrics, book, direction, and producing all by Jewish creatives. The book is written by Danny Strong, who some of you may know as Doyle from Gilmore Girls, but also, like Doyle, a very accomplished writer. It is a rock musical. It is about Galileo's clash with his friend, who becomes more of a frenemy when the friend becomes the Pope. And it's about the battle between science and religion, but in a more of an introspective way, not in a like there's one answer way. Um, and it just looks very interesting. It is the return to Broadway of Raul Esparza, who's here on the left. If anybody watches Law and Order SVU, you might know him from that. He is a major star in the theater scene in New York, and everyone here is very excited. He has not been on Broadway in about 13 years. We're all excited about it. Personal plug in the middle here is Jeremy Kushner. He's my friend, so I'm also just excited for him to be back on Broadway. And then on the right, we have Joy Woods, who, if anyone was here for the recent revival of Gypsy, starring Audra McDonald, Joy Woods played Gypsy, and she was incredible. So if you enjoyed that performance, please come see Galileo. The music is similar to Rent or Spring Awakening or Jesus Christ Superstar. So I have a little clip from their original production at Berkeley Rep. It has been tweaked fairly heavily since then, but the music should give you an idea of what you're in for.
Nothing is more rebellious than speaking truth to power.
Life I've lived isn't easy.
The tension between religious authority and scientific discovery is the heart of the role for me.
Cycling failures, pointless teaching.
What I find most resonant about the challenges Galileo faces is here's an individual who knows he's telling the truth, and the greatest forces of power in the world are condemning him.
I'm sure I'm spinning, but my mind's steady.
I think it's an amazing time for us to be talking about truth and power. And we do live in a divided time right now where religion can be used as a weapon, and that's exactly what they were living through at the time.
The story is a contemporary one. Even though it happened hundreds of years ago, it can happen today. It is happening today the same way.
No matter how dark it gets, and no matter how much we think we might have failed, truth will win out in the long arc of history. We have to believe that to keep going.
The day is coming soon. That I believe.
He's a rock star who had a vision that they weren't ready for, and it's so exciting. It's so prescient. It's so now.
Believe day is coming soon.
All right. So before we get to Off-Broadway, I think the important takeaway from those Broadway shows is that there are several options coming that are brand new, and they're not starring Hollywood A-list movie stars, and that's very exciting and different than what we've seen the last few years. So if you have the opportunity to support shows like that, please take them. Now, upcoming Off-Broadway. We're going to start with Imitation of Life. This is running for not even 2 months. It's at this really interesting venue called The Shed, which is one of the newest venues in New York. It's very modern and it's based on the novel, but also based on the movies from the 30s and the 50s, if anyone has seen those. Music and lyrics by John Legend. So that's very interesting. The book by Pulitzer Prize winner Lynn Nottage. Um, this is an interesting one because it is truly brand new. There is no music out there. There's nothing to listen to, no preview. Total leap of faith if you want to go see this. But an original John Legend musical sounds incredible. So it's going to be for sure a hot ticket in New York. And if it goes well, probably a Broadway transfer in the future. As it says here, it's about two women in the 20s and 30s in Atlantic City and New York, and the differences in their lives raising their daughters as a Black woman and a white woman. So, if you'd like to watch the movie and then see if that is of interest to you, could be a good idea. The Conversation is one of the most exciting options this fall because it is a new musical written by and starring Joshua Henry and Julia Harriman. If you were lucky enough to see Joshua Henry in ragtime in the last year, you will know that you should run to see anything this man is in ever. It was, if not the greatest performance I've ever seen on a stage, one of the top three. Absolutely incredible. And I don't understand how he had the time to write a new musical while doing it. So this is, as far as we know, a two-hander, meaning it's just the two of them in this show. They wrote it together. It is directed by Kenny Leon, who is also, very famous and accomplished in his own right. And it is only running for 10 weeks. And it is about this couple and the life cycle of their relationship. And we do have a clip. It's just the two of them singing it because it has not had a production before. So this is the world premiere production of the show. And this one's going to the internet. Hang on.
We would guarantee simple you and me. So easy, it's a dream worth dreaming. So I not say that you agree. Simple you and me. Simple you and me. Simple you and me. Simple you and me. Simple you and me.
To be honest, anything he is in, I will go see. So I will recommend to you anything off Broadway, on Broadway, doesn't matter. If he's doing it, you should go. This one is a little more out there, so stick with me. This is called The Heart. It's an EDM musical. This is not typically my style, but there's something for everyone. So this is an electronic musical. It is about the 24 hours of a heart as it's going from one person to the person that is receiving the heart. And it is EDM because, meaning electric dance music, because it is the pulse of the heart. That's why it's electronic. So it is conceptual musical. It is at Roundabout Theater Company, and it's exciting because they're very known for revivals of classical musicals, and this is their first new musical in years. The music and lyrics are by the people who gave us K-pop Demon Hunters, if that is of interest to anyone. It has direction by Christopher Ashley, who is starting his tenure at Roundabout Theater Company. And it's choreographed by Mandy Moore, who is not the actor. And she choreographed La La Land and many other Emmy Award winning dances that people will have seen. It is, as you can see down here, The Curious Incident of the Dog in the Nighttime. If you saw the play, I think it is the most like that. We do have a clip from its world premiere production at La Jolla Playhouse. So you just get an idea. This is this is not your typical musical, but very interesting. If you like something different. So you can see, very graphic, lots of technology involved, not very melodic, but great cast, very interesting. If you want something unique, you'll be, the cool friend who knows about the unique technology show in New York. The last section we're talking about is galas and special events. We have a couple of very cool ones coming up this fall. The first one is called What Are You Gonna Do? This is Alex Edelman's new show. So, for those who are not familiar, Alex Edelman is a stand-up comedian whose style is somewhere between stand-up and storytelling. If anyone is familiar with Mike Birbiglia, I would say it's sort of in that style. He grew up modern Orthodox in Brookline, Massachusetts, and his last special, Just for Us, was on Broadway, was filmed for HBO, and it won a special Tony Award, and it also won an Emmy Award for the filmed version for HBO Max, which you can stream now. It is hilarious. It is about Alex sneaking into a white nationalist meeting in Queens and the mayhem that ensues when they figure out that he's Jewish. But it is hilarious. And if you have not seen it, I definitely recommend watching it. It also will be a great way to know if this is a show you'll like. This is on tour, so even if you don't live in New York, you have no plans to come to New York, it likely will be coming to LA or San Diego shortly. So keep this one on your radar. He's also starring in The Paper, which is on Peacock. It is the sequel spin-off to The Office. Okay. Obviously, there's no clips of this because it is brand new, but we do have the trailer from Just for Us.
Boston. I grew up in this really racist part of Boston called Boston. It's a Tuesday night, and I'm doing my favorite thing. When I'm alone, I lie on my couch and I hold my phone like an otter, like an inch from my face. And I see this tweet, and I sent it to my best friend in the world, and I wrote, David, do you want to come with me to this meeting of Nazis in Queens? Nothing says white privilege more than a Jew walking into a meeting of racists and thinking, this will probably be fine. It's Queens, the most diverse borough. You can't even get 17 Nazis together without a Jew being sat right there. There's a huge part of me that genuinely walked into this room thinking, like, they're just anti-Semites because they haven't met Alex yet. At some point, this guy 2 seats away from me went, Jews are sneaky and they're everywhere.
Honestly, don't think that the clip does it justice. It's great. So go see it. watch it on TV. And then the other big gala coming this fall is at City Center, which I mentioned earlier. It is in the Heights. If you are unfamiliar, it is the show that really put Lin-Manuel Miranda on the map before Hamilton. It won the Tony Award in 2008 for Best Musical and also was a finalist for the Pulitzer Prize. It is obviously music and lyrics by Lin-Manuel Miranda, and the book, and by book in this case, I mean the script, was written by Puerto Rican Jewish Pulitzer Prize winner, which is a tongue twister, Chiara Alegria Hudes, and she is very interesting. Actually, wrote a memoir about growing up Puerto Rican and Jewish, which I will link to in the post-program email if anyone's interested in reading that. There was a film adaptation in 2021. It's going to be 3 weekends, and they haven't announced the cast yet, but it will be spectacular. The gala presentations there are always incredible. 2 years ago was Ragtime, which obviously then transferred to Broadway and then won basically every Tony Award. So not only is this an amazing performance usually, but it's also the first step for some shows before being huge Broadway hits. It is the first revival in New York since it was on Broadway, and I'm very excited for it. I also, controversial, like this show more than Hamilton. So it is about a bodega owner and his neighbors in Washington Heights, which is the neighborhood above West Harlem. It is a neighborhood that is mostly Dominican, but also the neighborhood where Yeshiva University is. So it is also a very Jewish neighborhood. And if you are a person who likes music with Latin rhythms, this is for you. If you also are someone who likes stories set in New York, this is for you. We have 2 clips, actually. Well, yeah, we have several clips. So the first clip is from a PBS documentary that they made on the creation of In the Heights called Chasing Broadway Dreams. And this is Lin-Manuel Miranda talking about the process of writing the musical, which he started when he was 19, which is absurd.
I started writing In the Heights my sophomore year at Wesleyan University. At first it was, I want to write the kind of musical I would want to be in. I also saw Rent, and it was the first time I'd seen a musical that took place now. And a light bulb really went off, and I was like, oh, you can write like a musical about you, about your life. It wasn't until I got to Wesleyan really that I realized that there's a generation of us who either were born somewhere else and moved here, or their parents came from somewhere else, whether it's from Latin America or Russia or the West Indies, and don't know where they belong and what they're supposed to navigate, what traditions you take with you.
I'm an LA native, born in New York.
Kent, Ohio. Born in LA. I grew up in Puerto Rico.
I'm from Miami.
My dad is American, but my mom is from Venezuela.
My dad's Mexican, my mom's Jewish. My parents were immigrants.
My family came in the 50s and they were very poor.
I've always been the one to kind of say that I'm going to do something different.
So that's the background of the show. And then I wanted to this is my favorite song from the show. It is called Breathe, and was originally sung by Mandy Gonzalez, who you saw in that last clip saying she is of Mexican and Jewish heritage.
She's back.
You can see I was already listening to it.
Sigue andando el camino por toda su vida, descuida. Si pierdes mis huellas, que Dios te bendiga, descuida. This is my street. I smile at the faces I've known all my life. They regard me with pride, and everyone's sweet. They say you're going places. So how can I say that while I was away, I had so much to hide? Hey guys, it's me. Biggest disappointment, you know. The kid couldn't hack it. She's back and she's walking real slow. Welcome home, just breathe.
So that's one style in the show. The other one I seem to have not. One second. The other one is more similar to Hamilton. Okay.
How's Lin-Manuel Miranda? Our next nominee for Best Musical. Baby, just do your thing. Do it in the Heights. Do your thing.
Okay, got it. Lights up on Washington Heights up at the dawning. I wipe down the awning. Hey y'all, good morning. I am snobby. You probably never heard my name. Reports of my fame are greatly exaggerated, exacerbated by the fact that my syntax is highly complicated. Cause I immigrated from the single little place in the Caribbean, Dominican Republic. I love it. Jesus, I'm jealous of it. And beyond that, ever since my folks passed on, I haven't gone back. Oh man, I gotta get home now. Me and my cousin running just another dime a dozen. Mom and pop stop and shop. And oh my God, it's gotten too darn hot. Like my man Cole Porter said, people come through for review, cold waters and the lottery ticket just a part of the routine. Everybody's got a job, everybody's got a dream.
So as you can see, it's similar to Hamilton in that definitely has hip hop influences, but the Latin rhythms underneath it, I think, are more interesting to me. It is more melodic than Hamilton is, and it feels more personal because it is based on his life, and has great female characters in it. Big fan of In the Heights. Definitely recommend if you happen to be here in any of those weekends. Please go see that show. City Center is also a beautiful theater. And then lastly, I'd like to just give you some tips and tricks on how to be a theater pro in New York City. So this is for anyone, whether you're here all the time, whether you're in LA going to see theater or in Orange County. If you are not familiar with the Today Tix app or the theater app, these are great. Theater, no E, is an app that allows people to sell their tickets at face value or below. You cannot sell above face value, which is why I love this app. Today Tix just gives you instant access to buy tickets directly from the shows. And going in, the fees are the same across the board. I would never buy a ticket from a third-party website. Either go to the box office, buy from the official website, or get from these apps. Don't get them from a third-party website because they might be fake. Next, if you do live in New York, and you do not have a TDF membership, which is the Theater Development Fund, if you are over, I believe it's 65, you can get a TDF membership to discount tickets, both Broadway, off-Broadway, concerts, special performances, galas, etc. And it saves you a ton of money. They're about $40 for the year. I have one because they're also for artists, and there are a few other categories. It's amazing. If the Broadway shows are on there, it's always based on capacity, but I've gone to see shows on Broadway for $60 that are, 10th row center. Like, it's ridiculous. Also, if you are a person who likes going to see shows for not $500, I always check. Playbill has a great list of current Broadway and off-Broadway rush and lottery policies. Every single show has something, either a rush policy, a lottery policy, a standby policy, that you can look into. They are not as cheap as they used to be. Lotteries used to be $30, $35. The one for Gypsy last year was $69. So even those are going up. But always worth checking out. Some shows do have discounts if you are above a certain age, below a certain age, if you live in a certain neighborhood, etc. If you're a veteran. So there are lots of different programs. Definitely always recommend looking before you buy. Next, very important, reviews are not set in stone. Like the New York Times review, just one person's opinion. I don't go off the New York Times review. You know, listen to your friends, look at other reviews. It's not, you know, the be all end all. I'm sure many of you may know this, but if you buy your tickets at the box office, or you have someone who lives in New York who can buy the tickets at the box office, you're going to avoid fees on every single ticket. So that is always the way to go if you have someone here who can do that for you. Next, if you think you might need an assisted listening device, every single Broadway theater is going to have them. Make sure you get that before you go sit down. Some of your theaters will also have iPods or other devices that will have essentially super titles, so that you can read the script as you watch the show. And like as if though you're at the opera, it'll be, you know, a black screen, so nobody else is going to be bothered by it. So that is an option as well. So just know if you're going to a Broadway theater and you might want assisted hearing, you can always ask for options. My number one tip to be a theater pro in New York City: turn your phone off before the lights go down. You don't have to wait until the lights go down. They can be off at curtain. Instead of, we all know most shows start 5 minutes late. Turn it off at curtain, read the playbill. You don't want to be the person who the show starts and you're still trying to turn your phone off. The next most important one, there has been a trend of late to film the curtain call. I don't know why. I don't know what people do with these videos. But the curtain call is for applauding the performance. And if you're videotaping the curtain call, you're not applauding and you're not showing your appreciation for the show. So applaud, don't videotape it. And then lastly, it could be 100 degrees outside, bring a sweater. It could be 2 degrees outside, wear a tank top, wear a t-shirt, always layer in a theater. They're 100 years old and the air conditioning and heating systems are not reliable. So always layer. And most importantly, go support theater in your hometown, support theater in New York, and make sure people know that this is not a dying art. We love theater and we're going to keep going. And that's it. And I would love any questions that people have. And it can be about New York theater in general, shows that are currently running. Doesn't have to be about what was in this presentation.
Thank you so much, Callie. That was very exciting. Are any of these shows coming to LA?
Any of the new ones will not be coming to LA, like have not announced dates to LA. I do think Alex Edelman's show has announced dates, which I can look up and put in the email. Some of these will tour, and LA will be a major stop. But theater world is a slow one. So even if something runs on Broadway, it will not tour generally for several years after. So the best way to see any footage from it would be to follow the show on social media, which I know is not like ideal, but that will be the most efficient way to see footage of the show, and then to watch the Tony Awards.
Thank you. And do you have to live in New York to have a TDF membership?
No. Um, it's probably most beneficial, or at least if you're here frequently. But no, you don't have to live here.
With the recent incident with Boy George and pulling out of Jesus Christ Superstar, you mentioned that there was one musical with Danny Strong that was
Mhm.
all Jewish, and then there was also the Alex Edelman show. Have any of those also encountered backlash? And can you comment in general about the Jewish experience these days in the theater world?
They haven't experienced backlash. It's also not, they haven't been promoted as like Jewish shows, Galileo specifically, because it's literally about the Catholic Church. It just happens to be produced, the whole creative team is Jewish, but the content itself is not. The Jewish experience has been not amazing. A few years ago, a couple years ago, Parade was on Broadway and their opening night was protested, which is particularly difficult because of the content of the show, which is about a Jewish man in Atlanta in the early 20th century who is falsely accused of murder and is lynched. And these people were protesting that show when it, so that was just anti-Semitism. Yeah, it's definitely been rough here, and I imagine it will continue to be rough. Um, it's a day-to-day situation. There's not really anything right now. Well, actually, there is a show right now running off Broadway called Birthright, which is about birthright. It's about six Jews in their late 20s, and then they kind of age into their 40s, um, that met on Birthright and have to deal with how Americans view Israel and how that changes over the course of 15 years until after October 7th. And I loved it. I thought I left that play thinking that I agreed with something that every character said, and I disagreed with something that every character said. Um, an alarm went off in the middle of it, and they cleared the stage. But the audience was obviously heavily Jewish, and everyone kind of like, because an alarm went off, and we all knew that this was a play about Israel, and we were all kind of on high alert immediately that something was wrong. So there is a tension for sure. But, you know, we're all artists and you got to keep making art.
Because also there's been the Jerry Seinfeld shows, he's had hecklers. So does the same thing happen in the Alex Edelman shows?
Well, his last one was before October 7th, I believe. So we'll see. It's going to depend on the content of the show, I would imagine. Um, yeah, we'll see. He hasn't done this one yet.
The other show that had the all black female cast that you said it's not usual to have that on Broadway, it seemed that the off-Broadway shows were more diverse. Is that usual for off-Broadway to be more diverse?
Yes. So because this is so bad, but because um, Broadway is commercial and they have to appeal to larger audiences, they're usually very white, creative team, cast, um, everything about them. And the off Broadway shows are usually able to be more experimental, have more diverse voices. And there's been a great push to have that on Broadway. But it's so hard to make a profit on Broadway that the people in power are pushing back. So, like for instance, there was a very widely acclaimed production of Cats that's currently on Broadway, but it's closing this weekend, like a week from today, because even though hugely acclaimed, critics loved it, award shows loved it, all the people who saw it loved it. It just wasn't making money, so it's closing. And it was, I don't know, I don't know if anyone in it is white, but it was very queer, very diverse. I mean, and it's closing. So when something like that happens, the theater industry in New York is kind of going through a reckoning right now because nobody can afford to go. And so the Broadway industry, they're trying to figure out, what do we do to save Broadway because no one can afford to go? And off Broadway, what do we do to save or change the nonprofit model? Because that's not working anymore either.
Wow, interesting, the intricacies and politics that go in behind that. Zelda had an extra tip for us that you can go in person on the day of a show or the day before a matinee. Tickets live at Times Square and Upper West Side are options, usually about half the price. So thank you, Zelda, for that extra little tip.
Yes, so it's TKTS.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. There's also one, I have to double check, but yeah, so you can go do that. They're between 30% and 50% off, and you can download the TKTS app on your phone beforehand and look and see what is there to see if the show you're looking for is available.
Wonderful. I just wanted to let everybody know as well that Callie will send us the videos in the follow-up email because I know the sound wasn't so great. To all those people that have raised your hand, you have to message me. I've written you a private message. So if you have any extra questions, then you can write them in the chat to me now. I've written to each person, Sandy and Anita, if you go to your chat. You can also chat with me by going to the top of my window. There are 3 little dots, and you press on that, and then you get an option to chat. So thank you so much, Callie. This was really wonderful, and I'm very excited to see a few of those different type of shows. Like the Heartbeat one looks super interesting as a totally different genre. So thank you for exposing us to all of those different genres that we wouldn't know about otherwise. It's been a super great peek into New York theatre life. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. And please, send me an email if you're coming. You need to know what to see this weekend or next weekend. And hope everyone has a great rest of your day.